Let's take a look at the imperfect tense again in Spanish. And we're going to call this video part 2. In part 1, the first video, we learned the meaning of PhD, okay? And so in part 2, just like the preterite tense part 2 video, we're going to take a look at some specific examples in Spanish. So let's start with this P over here. And we already know that P represents an action in progress in the past. So if we look at this sentence, Roberto nadaba, I know that it's an example of P because this here does not tell me when this action started nor completed, okay? Another way to say this sentence is by using the past progressive, okay? And so we take the verb estar, put it in the imperfect, and then if it's an AR verb, we add ando. If it's an ER or IR verb, this would become yendo. Okay, and so we call this the past progressive. Okay, but remember it uses the imperfect tense here. Now, let's take a look at H. And we know that H is a habitual action. So if we look at this sentence here, as soon as you see this word siempre, it's going to represent a habitual action. So what is the habitual action in this sentence? Siempre yo comía tacos en la casa de mi abuelita. I always used to, okay, eat tacos. Now let's look at D, which represents description, and we have several examples here. So let's take a look at this first example. María era alta. Well, I know this is an example of description because of this word here, alta, which describes María. Okay, and so we use the imperfect tense. Let's look at this second sentence. María tenía ojos azules. So this here describes her eyes. So she had blue eyes. And so that's a description, and so we use the imperfect tense. In this third sentence here, María tenía 24 años, so she was 24 years old. And that, again, is a description, and so we use the imperfect tense. Now, let's just say you saw María several years ago, and there was a dog with María, okay? There was a dog is another description, and so we use the imperfect tense here, okay? And who was that dog? Well, take a guess. It was Fanta. Fanta is everywhere, okay? Let's look at this next sentence. Eran las 2 de la mañana. Well, remember we use the imperfect tense when describing the time in the past. So it was 2 in the morning, so we use the imperfect tense. Era viernes el 16 de septiembre. Well, this here tells us that it's a date, and when describing the date, we have to use the imperfect tense. And finally, hacía calor, it was hot, is a description, and so we have to use the imperfect tense. Okay, so take a look at this video, and remember that PhD requires the imperfect tense. If you have any questions, let me know. Hasta luego.